Right, now we're going to talk about Bidcorp, because this is the one we were referring to earlier. Spun off from Bidvest in May of 2016. So basically Bidvest over the years has acquired lots of food services businesses all over the world, Europe, Australia, South Africa, and decided that it wanted to be separate. It had a couple of expressions of interest from global players, including in fact Cisco and Sodexo from France, we understand. So now it presents itself as a JSE listed, globally diversified food services group with its CEO Bernard Berson based in Australia. Market cap on the JSE, 83.4 billion rands. The price to earnings ratio, well, we've said not applicable, and that's because, of course, it's now got half the business, so you can't, I mean, there is a comparable number that one could go back and dig out. But for the moment, anyway, let's just assume that it's got a price to earnings ratio around about the market average, which I guess must be around 15 or something. Dividend yield historically 0.97, although again, I'm not even sure which part of the business that refers to. So far, what we've had from them are trading updates, which look quite good.
Yeah. The recent history of this is absolutely fascinating. You go back, what, 3-4 years ago, and as you say, they had these expressions of interest. We never, I don't think we ever had a proper divulging of
Yeah, they kind of insinuated that there'd been some interest.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, we're exploring doing a listing of the business separately.
That's right.
And then eventually they came with it, although they didn't do the London listing that they mentioned they might be looking
so
at.
That catalyzed this whole thing.
Yeah.
And they've created something which I think has really got wonderful gravitas. It's got a great track record outside of South Africa. So look, I actually like this one.
So it's involved with food services and distribution almost everywhere other than the continental USA, as far as I know. It's got quite a substantial business in Chile, where there's lots of sort of food processing that goes on, including fish that gets shipped internationally. They've got a business in other parts of Latin America. Australia, we've mentioned before. They're in Hong Kong and mainland China, smallish but growing, and then a sizable business in the European continent. So Amsterdam and the environs, those Benelux countries, Italy, where they bought their way into the market, and that's typically been what they've done. They've bought businesses in these places. So
I think the difference between something like a Bidcorp and a Cisco, Cisco's big, it's got a couple of bolt-ons there, but this one I think has got much more potential in more in different geographical jurisdictions.
It's occurred to a lot of people that perhaps this would be a good combination between, say, a Cisco and a Bidcorp, because obviously they would be very complementary. There'd be very little overlap, and there would be very little resistance from regulators.
Yeah.
Remember, management-wise, Bernard Berson is a 50-year-old Johannesburger, although he worked in Canada and all sorts of other places. He's an accountant by background. He was one of Brian Joffe's lieutenants. And speaking of Mr. Joffe, he is more involved here as an executive chairman than he is in Bidvest, correct? Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's look at the share chart, because you can see it doesn't really reflect much activity.
Yeah.
Interestingly, a lot of people thought that Bidcorp would do better than Bidvest after the split, but in fact Bidvest has done very well anyway, and Bidcorp's been a bit wishy-washy. It came on, it traded as high as 280, it's currently sort of languishing a little bit around 250, although the move in November at the end there has been quite sharp, and that's in reaction to trading updates where they indicated things were going well and that you shouldn't worry about the state of the economy. You know, people think, okay, it's JSE listed, therefore I'm going to get negative on this company because it's involved with consumer type stuff and the consumer's under pressure. But South Africa is only a small part of the business.
Yeah. So I think this is it's a nice round hedge. Look, some of the jurisdictions in which they're in are emerging markets, and they'll perhaps take a little bit of strain as we go to 2017 and beyond. But I think you've got such a nice mix there, Paul. No, I think that'll hold it in good stead.
And Europe will be resurgent at some point, etc.,
etc. Slow, but gradual.
Excellent. Right, so we're hot on that one, Chris.
Yep.
Hot on Bidcorp. This is the time to get stuck in there. And of course, there's a little bit of confusion in the market about what those earnings are going to be. So when they come through and we're starting to build up a nice track record, the share price should react accordingly and start getting to a better level.